morning, students. Hope you all are fine and safe. Today's thought. Now we shall learn about biogeochemical cycles. Here, bio means living organisms. Geo means that is soil, that is related to the environment. And chemical, here that is the nutrients. So, exchange of nutrients between organisms and their environment is called biogeochemical cycle. There are two basic types, gaseous cycle and sedimentary cycle. Gaseous cycle includes atmospheric oxygen, carbon and nitrogen cycles. Sedimentary cycle includes the cycles of phosphorus, sulfur and calcium which are present as sediments of earth. All these cycles already you have learnt in the lower classes. Now we shall discuss about carbon and phosphorus cycle. First, carbon cycle. The circulation of carbon between organisms and environment is known as carbon cycle. Cycling of carbon between organisms and atmosphere is a sequence of two reciprocal processes. They are photosynthesis and respiration. Now look at this diagrammatic representation of carbon cycle. Here the releasing of carbon in the atmosphere increases due to burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, forest fire, volcanic eruption and decomposition of dead organic matters. This atmospheric carbon dioxide taken up by the plants during the process of photosynthesis and releases oxygen. When it respires, it releases carbon dioxide. Again, this carbon dioxide goes to the atmosphere. So, this process takes place in a cyclic manner. Phosphorus cycle. It is a type of sedimentary cycle. Phosphorus is found in the biomolecules of DNA, RNA, adenosine triphosphate, that is ATP, NADP, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate and phospholipid molecules of living organisms. Phosphorus is not abundant in biosphere, whereas bulk quantity of phosphorus is present in rock deposits, marine sediments and guano. What do you mean by guano? The waste substance passed from the bodies of seabirds. It is released from these deposits by weathering process. After that, it circulates in lithosphere as well as hydrosphere. The producers absorb phosphorus in the form of phosphate ions and then it is transferred to each trophic level of food chain through food. Again, death of these organisms and degradation by the action of decomposers, the phosphorus is released back into the lithosphere and hydrosphere to maintain phosphorus cycle. Next, let's discuss types of ecosystem. Biosphere consists of two major ecosystems. They are natural ecosystem and artificial, that is man-made ecosystem. Natural ecosystem is of two types, terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem example, forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem and desert ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystem, that is two type, freshwater and marine water ecosystem. In the freshwater ecosystem is of two types, lotic and lentic. What do you mean by lotic? Running water bodies, lentic, that is standing water bodies. Running water bodies examples, river, spring and stream. Then standing water bodies example, pond and lake. Now let's discuss the structure of pond ecosystem. It is a classical example for natural, aquatic, freshwater and lentic type of ecosystem. It helps to understand the structure and functions of an ecosystem. It consists of biotic and abiotic components. A pond ecosystem consists of organic and inorganic substances. The function of pond ecosystem is regulated by few factors like the amount of light, temperature, pH value of water, and other climatic conditions. The biotic components such as producers, consumers, and decomposers are present in the pond ecosystem. Stratification of pond ecosystem. Based on the factors like distance from the shore, penetration of light, depth of water, types of plants and animals, there may be three zones: littoral, limnetic, and profundal. The littoral zone, which is closest to the shore with shallow water region, allows easy penetration of light. It is warm and occupied by rooted plant species. Next to the littoral zone, limnetic zone is there. Here, effective penetration of light and domination of planktons. The deeper region of the pond below the limnetic zone is called profundal zone with no effective light penetration and predominance of heterotrophs. The bottom zone of a pond is termed as benthic, which is occupied by a community of organisms that is usually decomposers. So these are called benthos. The primary productivity through photosynthesis of littoral and limnetic zone is more due to greater penetration of light than the profundal zone. Next one is ecosystem services. What in the ecosystem services? The benefits that people derive from nature are called ecosystem services or ecosystem benefits. Various benefits obtained from the ecosystem are generally categorized into four types. They are provisioning services, cultural services, supporting services, and regulating services. The provisioning services includes food, fiber and fuel, genetic resources, biochemicals, fresh water, and medicines. Cultural services, that is spiritual and religious values, knowledge system, education and inspiration, recreation and aesthetic value of the ecosystem, and ecotourism. These are comes under cultural services. Supporting services, that is primary production, provision of habitat, nutrient cycle, soil formation and retention, production of atmospheric oxygen and water cycling. Regulating services includes invasion resistance, herbivory pollination, seed dispersal, climate regulation, pest regulation, disease regulation, erosion regulation, water purification, natural hazard protection. Now let's discuss how do anthropogenic activities, that is human activities, affect ecosystem services. Now we all exploit the ecosystem more than that of our needs. The Millennium Ecosystem Assessment 2005 found that over the past 50 years, humans have changed the ecosystem more rapidly and extensively than in any comparable period of time in human history. Generally, the following human activities disturb or re-engineer an ecosystem every day. They are habitat destruction, deforestation and overgrazing, erosion of soil, introduction of non-native species, over-harvesting of plant material, pollution of land, water and air, runoff pesticides, fertilizers and animal waste. Ecosystem resilience services. Ecosystem is damaged by disturbances from fire, flood, predation, infection, drought, etc., removing a great amount of biomass. However, ecosystem is endowed with ability to resist the damage and recover quickly. This ability of ecosystem is called ecosystem resilience or ecosystem robustness. How to protect this ecosystem? If we change our everyday lifestyle, we can help to protect the planet and its ecosystem. If we fail to protect the environment, we will fail to save posterity. What will be posterity? Or future generations. Therefore, we have to practice the following in our day-to-day life. Buy and use only eco-friendly products and recycle them. Grow more trees. Choose sustained farm products such as vegetables, fruits, greens, etc. Reduce the use of natural resources. Recycle the waste and reduce the amount of waste you produce. Reduce consumption of water and electricity. Reduce or eliminate the use of household chemicals and pesticides. Maintain your cars and vehicles properly. Create awareness and educate about ecosystem protection among your friends and relatives and ask them to find out the solution to minimize this problem. Have you heard about the term Go Green? It refers to the changing of one's lifestyle for the safety and benefits of the environment. And also we have to use 3R. What are they? Reduce, reuse and recycle. Way to go green and save green. These are the very simple and easy steps already we know. That is, close the tap when not in use. Switch off the electrical gadgets when not in use. Never use plastics and replace them with biodegradable products. Always use eco-friendly technology and products. Use ecosystem but don't lose ecosystem. Make it sustainable. Next one is ecosystem management. It is a process to sustain and enhance the quality of the ecosystem to meet current or future needs. Here given some strategies of ecosystem management. It is used to maintain biodiversity of ecosystem. It helps in indicating the damaged ecosystem. Some species indicate the health of the ecosystem. Such species are called flagship species. Flagship species are charismatic animals that capture the public's imagination and encourage people to support conservation projects. Flagship species are usually used as a focal point of large conservation campaign for their ability to get people's attention. Thus, the way flagship species helps to the ecosystem management. This ecosystem management is also used to recognize the inevitability, that is unavoidability of ecosystem change and plan accordingly. It is one of the tools used for achieving sustainability of ecosystem through sustainable development program or projects. It is also helpful in identifying ecosystems which are in need of rehabilitation. It involves collaborative management with government agencies, local population, communities and NGOs, non-government organizations. It is used to build the capacity of local institutions and community groups to assume responsibility for long-term implementation of ecosystem management activities even after the completion of the project. Currently, Adayar Poonga functions as an environmental education center for school and college students and the public. The entire area stands as one of the best examples for urban eco-restoration in the state of Tamil Nadu. These are all about ecosystem management.